Student athletes and students involved in extracurricular activities take leadership roles in the school community and, as role models, should be drug-free. And student drug testing helps ensure this. More importantly, it gives students involved in extracurricular activities an out or an argument they can use when pressured to take drugs. An example of this would include, if I take drugs, they will know because I have to take a drug test and I'll be kicked off the team. Today, drug testing is a standard procedure when applying for a job. Certainly, athletes who want to compete at the collegiate and Olympic level should get used to the idea of drug testing. Schools that test athletes and students in other extracurricular activities experience an overall decline in drug use. However, they must not forget about those students who do not benefit from drug testing and at least provide them with other drug prevention and education alternatives. Random student drug testing should not be a standalone program. All students should receive prevention education, the more often, the better. We will be reviewing the expectations of student athletes, how random drug testing overall reduces drug use, and the many benefits that mandatory drug testing provides. Student athletes are held at a higher expectation and are expected to follow all given rules as they must act as leaders and are viewed by others as role models. A random drug testing policy can aid those students facing peer pressure to use or who are on the fence because it provides them with an easy excuse to say no to drugs. Participating in a sport is a privilege as there are a lot of benefits that come with participating in a sport. It's not always easy balancing school with sports. The main key is to only balance school and sports. Outside distractions on top of those two will make it very difficult to remain focused on the greater task. Being a student athlete means being responsible. Being responsible earns trust from others. Student athletes must work hard, train hard, play hard, and do the right thing to become successful on and off the court, field, course, or track. The rules and regulations for student athletes are different from other students. A handbook of the institution's rules must be followed, as well as additional rules for athletes. Athletes are portraying an image because they participate in a sport. It is important for athletes to become aware of their actions and make decisions that they, their coaches, and the public would be proud of. Athletes must also work together as a team. The choices they make individually not only affects that specific team member, but the rest of the team as a whole. Next, I will begin to discuss the importance of drug testing and why student athletes should be drug tested. Teens' brains and bodies are still developing, and this makes them especially vulnerable to the harmful effects of drug use. Not all teens use illicit drugs, but for those who do, it can lead to a wide range of adverse effects on their brain and bodies, behavior, and health. For short-term effects, even a single use of an intoxicating drug can affect a person's judgment and decision-making, resulting in accidents, poor performance in school and sports activities, unplanned risky behavior, and overdose. For long-term effects, repeated drug use can lead to serious problems, such as poor academic outcomes, mood changes, and social or family problems caused or worsened by drugs. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, repeated drug use not only leads to addiction, but studies show that the earlier a teen begins using drugs, the more likely he or she will develop a substance use disorder, also known as an SUD. An SUD develops when continued drug use causes issues such as health problems and failures to meet responsibilities at home, work, and school. An SUD can range from mild to severe, the most severe form being addiction. Conversely, if teens stay away from drugs while in high school, they are less likely to develop an SUD later in life. According to Dr. Keith Ablow, the benefits of drug testing are obvious. A dent would be made in drug use in our public schools. Doctors and parents would be alerted to drug use in their children. Parents could then choose whether to tie further participation in sports teams to their kids getting help and getting clean. And a statement would be made about what it takes to be a team member, a team player, to do one's best, respect one's body, and really show up to compete. Next, I will begin to discuss the different types of drug tests used to detect drug use. There are several testing methods currently available that use urine, hair, oral fluids such as saliva, and blood. These methods can vary in cost, reliability, drugs detected, and detection period. Schools can determine their needs and choose that method that best suits their requirements, as long as the testing kits are from a reliable source. And here is an example of what a urine test looks like. Okay. The most popular type of drug test is a urine test, which can detect marijuana for days or weeks after use. However, urine tests do not detect the psychoactive component in marijuana, THC, and therefore in no way measure impairment. Rather, they detect the non-psychoactive marijuana metabolite, THC-COOH, which can linger in the body for days and weeks with no impairing effects. Because of THC-COOH's unusually long elimination time, urine tests are more sensitive to marijuana than other commonly used drugs. According to a survey by Quest Diagnostics, 50% of all drug test positives are for marijuana. Blood tests are a better detector of recent use since they measure the active presence of THC in the system. Because they are invasive and difficult to administer, blood tests are used less frequently. They are typically used in investigations of accidents, injuries, and DUIs, where they can give a useful indication of whether the subject was actually under the influence. Hair tests are the most objectionable form of drug testing, since they do not measure current use, but rather non-psychoactive residues that remain in the hair for months afterwards. These residues are absorbed internally and do not appear in the hair until after 7 to 10 days after first use. Afterwards, they cannot be washed out by shampoos. Those shampoos may help remove external smoke particles that do get stuck in the hair. Hair tests are more likely to detect regular than occasional marijuana use. Saliva testing is a newer, less proven technology. The sensitivity of saliva tests is not well established in the case of marijuana. In theory, they are supposed to detect recent use. This may range from several hours to over a day. They are supposed to detect secretions from inside the oral tissues that cannot be washed out with toothpaste or mouthwash. Because they are less intrusive than blood and urine tests, the industry has been eager to develop saliva tests. Next, I will begin to discuss how drug testing reduces drug use. The goal of the mandatory drug testing program is to reduce student substance use in 3 ways: by discouraging substance use, by detecting substance abuse, and by having effect on other students in the school as they observe and are influenced by the behavior of their peers. According to Melanie Dostis, 66% of students in high schools with drug testing programs said they would not use drugs in the future. A positive drug test will be used to help students receive counseling and treatment. The results are not turned over to law enforcement, and they are not part of any record sent to colleges. The results are strictly confidential under federal and/or state law. According to Mark Bockelman, the biggest of his concerns is that student athletes who are using drugs are risking their eligibility. At minimum punishment, students who test positive for drug use face suspension, while others may face expulsion as well as being kicked off their sports teams. Those who are passionate about their sports they are involved in may take this more seriously and choose to remain sober. As a student athlete myself, I encourage schools to partake in random drug testing for all student athletes and extracurricular activity participants. Mandatory drug testing would help reduce the number of drug users, as they would become aware of the consequences of being kicked off their sports teams or even expelled from school. I can only hope that more schools will choose to move ahead with a policy of random drug testing for student athletes, with a chance to change a child's life and provide them with the help they need to become drug-free.